Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we're joined once again by Mark Gonzales over at First National Bullion, and this is a big one, my friends, and everyone needs to be watching out for this because the UK is now bringing in massive surveillance powers at your bank. If you are living in the UK, this concerns you, but it also concerns you if you live in the United States, Canada, Australia, or any other of the other places where they're bringing in either real ID, digital ID attached to your bank account. So this is happening in the UK. In the UK right now, bank accounts could soon become open ledgers for the state, with Social Security claimants first in line for scrutiny. I want to repeat once again to everyone out there, if your money is all in the bank, it will. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is a fact. It will eventually be used against you or held from you. And that is something that we all need to be getting prepared for as we see these restrictions coming into play all over the world simultaneously. It's not a coincidence that this is happening as they bring in these restrictions that allow them to watch every single thing you do in an instant and decide whether you're allowed to even get your pension. Insane. Meanwhile, we have MasterCard turning identity verification into a feature on your wallet. And this is something, as we see MasterCard work with Sam Altman and these big AI companies. We're also seeing Visa work with Elon Musk and his XPay app, which again utilizes social credit scores. This is happening as we see Canada require QR codes to get into different towns and ban going outside in places like Nova Scotia. These things are all related as we see the desperation of the system as the system itself collapses, as the US owes actually more closely around with all the obligations around 151 trillion, not just a 37 trillion, which is a big enough number. And meanwhile, we have Trump appointing Stephen Miran as Fed governor, replacing Kugler. This has led to the dollar dumping big time and gold and crypto surging. But in the face of the dollar dumping, of course, people are going to move to gold. And of course, people are going to be struggling if they stay within the dollar, as we see them come out with these so-called solutions, quote unquote, for these problems, which make you less free, like all these major U.S. banks eyeing stablecoin experiments as crypto regulations shift, including Bank of America, which is implementing stablecoins within your wallet. And eventually, it'll all be tracked and traced. It'll all be digital. We're going to go into this and more today and why it affects you. And yes, it directly affects the money you have in the bank. But before we go into this, I urge you to check that link below for firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. So important for people to go and check that out if you want to avoid the CBDC system, if you want to avoid the digital IDs to come. This is your opportunity to buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium. You could hold that gold in your hands, put it in a vault, put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system, and work personally with Mark Gonzales. Schedule an appointment for a free consultation with him and a complimentary investors package. Just let him know where you found him in the comments at World Alternative Media or WHAM, and we appreciate it. And I know you guys will as well, because Mark is awake and knows what's going on, and we need to understand how all of this is going to affect us, Mark. I mean, we have these surveillance powers coming in the UK, but at the end of the day, we have real IDs in the United States. We have digital IDs coming out across Canada and in Australia, and Chinese style digital IDs. That means we're talking complete control of your bank, complete control of where you are, your whereabouts, what you think, what you say at all times. Eventually, the restriction of your food access, and of course, social credit. We know they have Basel III coming in to 63 central banks, which we talked about almost a year ago now. And now they can bail in your bank account and just take your money. Why is it so important to understand these risks involved in this mass surveillance?
Well, if you don't know what's happening, if you don't know your enemy, then you're dead in the water to begin with, is the first thing. But, we're way past let's sit on our hands and just kind of wonder to see what's happening. We're seeing what is happening and how it's going to unfold right in front of our eyes. So UK, China, it's all mirroring China's system too, by the way. We've talked about this. So we're supposed to look like China. So now you've got the UK, you've got Europe, Russia's talking about their digital ID, you got Canada, US has just passed the stablecoin. All roads lead to this digital control system. Now, as far as the UK's article that you mentioned, now they're talking about to make sure that it's for regulation or fraud preventance, right? Don't want to give you any more dole out if you're hiding, but everything is going to be used well past the capacity of what it's stated for. This is to spy and pry on your everyday life to make sure that you're being a good little boy or good little boy, a girl, a citizen for the country in which you live in. And if not, you will definitely be punished. So we've already got the Genius Act Pack now. So we're going to have our stable coins this year. They're going to be their parallel option to the current banking system. European Union is going to be October. Canada, Australia, all these countries are already going to be rolling this stuff out. Even Mexico, I'm sure you know, the Cure of ID is supposed to be in full effect in February.
Yeah, they have full biometrics being rolled out here. And by the way, Mexico is very anti-technocracy. So the fact that they are rolling it out so easily, and by January, every single person will have to have it if they want residency, a bank account, and all these different things. I mean, this is a major shift that we're witnessing worldwide, and there's no escape from it, really. I mean, African countries were some of the first to be tested with this because they knew they would be the least likely to go along with it and to be able to be enforced upon them. And they've been able to enforce this stuff in Kenya, in Sierra Leone, in these places. So, of course, if they can do it there and in India, which is one of the first places to try to go cashless, then, of course, they can do it in the United States, Canada, and the UK and elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. An interesting thing you brought up about Kenya, and I need to verify this, but I did read, I just didn't verify that it happened, but I guess in 2026, if it's accurate, any child born in Kenya will no longer have a paper birth certificate. What they're going to have is they're going to have a microchip installed, and it's all going to be digital. Did you hear that?
Yeah, no, I heard that, and of course, that is part of their. I mean, remember they already had that overall umbrella of a carbon credit score system there, where people like in the Ojiek tribe were arrested and were denied food because their carbon credit score was too bad for their system, wasn't on par with what they said was appropriate for them to buy and purchase, food. So yeah, Kenya is going really far in that direction, which again is another example that if they're doing it in places like that, imagine what they're going to do where you are in the United States, Canada, Mexico, of course, the UK, Australia, throughout Europe, because this is a takeover agenda of the entire world using convenience, and tyranny comes under the guise of convenience. So they start with the less likely to comply places, and then they form their agenda surrounding that so that they know what they can and cannot do when they enforce it on you. And yes, your bank account is at risk. Yes, your money is at risk. Your savings are at risk. Your investments are at risk. Your assets are at risk. And people are just sitting on their hands waiting to see what happens. And that's so incredibly dangerous.
It is incredibly dangerous. And since they already have access with all these digital systems to be able to take from you, the only way that you're really going to avoid this to be able to make transactions outside of that digital system is going to be physical gold and silver. It's going to be little liquor bottles. It's going to be anything that you can really barter or trade a skill set. It's not going to be the paper currencies. You're going to want to try to avoid the digital currencies as much as you can. But tying this into the banks, back to this whole bank bail-in regime, and I hate keeping what seemingly would be a dead horse, but it's not. So the bank bail-ins, as we discussed, it's the default resolution to a systemic banking crisis. Well, let's look at where we're at here. Talk about the GDP print at 3% swing. Well, that's not because we grow by 3%. It's just our imports did not offset our growth by the factor of the 3% to put us negative, which would still been a technical recession pre-Biden. You also have permits for new housing in the toilet. The backbone of the U.S. economy, it is housing. We don't have our manufacturing, so it is in fact housing. So that is completely stalled. New home sales are going on record sale because they have to get out of those underwater positions on the loans and the financing, but they're not pushing out new permits. That's going to affect construction. We are this close to having the entire fabric of the U.S. economy start to fall off, and we got hardly anybody showing up on our bond markets for our treasuries. So thank God, I guess they passed the Stablecoin Act, because now private banks, not the Federal Reserve, is going to be in charge of our central bank digital currency. But hey, let me ask you, who charters the private banks? Who charters Chase? Who charters the credit unions? Would it possibly be the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, the Federal Reward System? So all this is world play, but you need to understand that this is coming very, very quickly. And yet we're stuck in a rock and a hard place as far as rates. Trump wants Powell to lower them. Data doesn't give the opportunity to lower them. And I do think they're going to lower them, but they're going to lower them to make a windfall for those holding treasuries right before the absolute collapse and squeeze everything that they can from the stone. But your dollar is devaluing constantly. And anybody who's buying gas, anybody who's buying groceries is knowing this. Yet again, that 64 quarter from 1964 has enough silver content in it equaling over $7. So it's not only still getting you a gallon of gas, it's preserving your wealth. Forget about the ups and downs. And we haven't even hit the all-time high in silver. All right. I've been saying that $35 number for a long time, line in the sand. It did. It rose above it. It came back down to almost 35. We touched just above 36, 36.40 last week. Guess what? Now we're moving again. The next line in the sand, people, on this stuff is going to be 40, 42. We break that with a little bit of moderation. We're going to come back and we're going to try to test it for sure. But the next stop's going to be 50. We break 50, sky's the fucking limit. So it's not a complacent time to be in. This is not a drill. People need to wake up to what's going on. And if you're wanting to find out exactly how this works, reach out. We'll have an actual conversation based upon what is going on with you and what is going to work. I provide real solutions, but a solution with surveillance state and a digital currency and a digital ID. And hell, I moved to Mexico to stay ahead of this. I bought myself 6 fucking months. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm pissed.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, this is, again, why it's so important to have that wealth insurance that is gold and silver. And this is, you know, it's not about advertising anything. This is about having real world solutions. And that's what we want to bring people. And, you know, a lot of people just want to be angry and then want to sit on their hands. And I know most of you out there want to actually do something about all these things that we're witnessing happen. You can't deny they're happening. They're happening across the board. However, you know, we have so many people that just want to say, we'll wait and see what happens. And waiting to see what happens, we're seeing it happen. And it's a slow draw because we're being normalized to these things. We're being normalized to not just the banks and, you know, the government pushing digital systems and IDs, but also a lot of private companies are getting away with this. X Money is getting away with this while they're working with Visa, while MasterCard is working with people like Sam Altman, and this massive AI agenda is passed. And we have the United Nations Pact for the Future, which allows them to ration your food, take your money out of your bank, all these things on top of the fact that they have bail-in regimes being pushed with Basel III. I mean, there's a massive crisis economically. It matters not who the president is. This is something that will continue to happen regardless of who it is. Again, you know, we cannot see the debt paid off anytime soon. A debt jubilee. I mean, give me a break. At this point, when we're seeing $37 trillion and potential obligations as high as $151 trillion, the GDP of the world is $75 billion or $75 trillion. So again, very unlikely. And of course, we're going to continue to see people move away from the dollar and move towards gold and crypto. The thing with crypto is, though, crypto is supposed to be decentralized and people are rushing to banks to use crypto. This is the total opposite of the whole purpose of crypto in the first place. So if you want to be free and you want to live freely without these restrictions placed upon you, you guys need to get prepared today. And this is one of the best ways, I believe, to avoid that CBDC system. So again, I'm putting it out there. firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/ has to be that exact link. There you can buy that physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium. Hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system. Sign up today. It takes 2 seconds to do so. Answer that call. Check your junk mail folder just in case anything, in case you miss any of the messages. You could schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzales and a complimentary investors package. Just let him know in the comments of the forum when you sign up that you found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM. Highly recommend people get on this today. I'm going to keep pummeling people with this information, as is Mark, because we know what's going on. We want to help you out there. We want to make it possible for you to prevail in the face of these very large struggles that have been manufactured and used against you. This is your way to be independent, your way to break free from these chains, and your way to live a prosperous life going forward and be insured for all the work that you've done all these years, rather than lose all of it to the destruction of the dollar and the control of a digital system. So I appreciate you going into this with us as always, Mark, and we'll be back with much more videos. We got a lot planned coming up, so stay tuned. But until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and Mark Gonzales signing out from World Alternative Media. Check that link below and find the truth and be the change.